Is the Ricoh GR3 the perfect everyday camera for travel and street photographers? Based on my time with the camera this year, I would say yes. Having made the switch from the Fujifilm X100V to the Ricoh GR3, I took the camera on an 18-day trip to Japan in March and April 2023. The GR3 quickly became my most used camera, as shooting with it was an absolute joy. In this video, I'll review the Ricoh GR3 and I'll show you plenty of images from that trip to Japan. And if you haven't already, make sure you check out my first video on the GR3 and why I switched from the Fujifilm X100V to this beautiful little compact camera. So first up, I'll give you a little rundown of the Ricoh GR3 specifications. It was released in 2019, so it's now over 4 years old. The camera has an 18.3mm f2.8 to f16 lens. That's approximately a 28mm field of view in full frame terms. It has a CMOS image sensor, approximately 24.24 megapixels. It has 3-axis sensor shift shake reduction. It has a built-in ND filter. It has a lovely 3-inch TFT color LCD screen. There is no viewfinder on the camera and there is no flash, but there's also a hot shoe on top. It weighs 257 grams, including battery and SD card. So let's start off by talking about the design and build quality of the camera. So while I really love what they've done with the diary edition version of the camera in terms of the colors, not only of the camera but also of the accessories, the finger strap and the case, I have to say, generally, if you're looking at the aesthetic qualities of the GR3, I don't think it's the most beautiful camera ever made. I think that Ricoh's film cameras were much better looking, and even their GR digital cameras from the early 2000s had a nicer sort of look to them. And while this isn't ugly, not by any means, I just feel like it isn't as attractive as those earlier cameras. Overall, I would rate the build quality of the camera as excellent. There are no issues to report, although I've only owned the camera for 7 or 8 months. The only thing I would say is that the canvas case, of course, there is a bit of discoloration and a bit of, a bit of general dirtiness to that, but I'm not sure how you would ever get around that unless you walk around with this wrapped in plastic or something like that. Now, the main issue I've heard about in terms of build quality with these cameras is dust. Now, when I first started hearing about this, I was rather confused. It's a fixed lens camera, and generally one of the advantages with fixed lens cameras is that you won't get dust on the sensor. But there was quite a few people reporting that they did have dust on their sensors. So it was a really interesting kind of thing to read about in Facebook groups. Now, depending on who you listen to, this is quite a serious issue that Ricoh need to fix, or the issue is non-existent. There's really two schools of thought in the Facebook groups about it. So far, I haven't had any issues and I'm hoping it continues that way. My biggest annoyance with the design of the camera is kind of to do with the case and the on and off button. So quite often, this is a lovely, amazing pocketable camera. So I will put the camera into the case and I'll put it into my pocket. And when I was walking around Japan, I might have it in my pants pocket or my jacket pocket. And sometimes when I got the camera out and went to take a photo, it was actually quite warm and I was like, what's going on here? And then to my horror, when I took the camera out, the back screen was on and the battery was sort of blinking at me to say that it was on its last legs. And somehow in this case, the on-off button, which is on top here, has got pressed down. And yeah, the camera has been on in my pocket for goodness knows how long. So that's happened to me probably half a dozen times this year. So it's something now I'm a bit more aware of, and I try and check my camera all the time to make sure it's not hot in my pocket. But that is something definitely to think about when you've got it in this case. The GR3 is really fun to shoot with, and most of the controls that you need when out and about shooting are very easy to find. Now, if there's a setting that you want to control but it's not assigned to any dial or button, you can actually go into the menu and you can customize the camera exactly how you want to use it. So with me personally, I almost always shoot in aperture priority mode. So I make sure that the aperture is controlled with this dial here, and the back dial there, which is a little bit more tricky to press, is for exposure compensation. And there's also other sort of little buttons here you can press on the back for macro mode, for ISO or auto ISO, for white balance, and also for image control, which is the built-in JPEG simulations in the camera. Quite often, I only operate the camera with one hand. It's really that simple and that fun to use. When I first unboxed the GR3, I was a little bit confused. I actually thought you got a wrist strap in with the Diary Edition Special Limited Edition kit. And upon closer inspection, it is not a wrist strap at all. It is a finger strap with that nice GR on the leather there. And at first I thought, this is ridiculous. I hate this. I'm going to take it off. I'm going to get a wrist strap from another camera and put it on this camera so I can put the strap around my wrist. And then I started using the finger strap and it's perfect. It is absolutely perfect. So I put 2 fingers through it and then there's a nice grip here on the camera. It doesn't look very big, but it is very, very nice. So with the combination of the strap and that camera grip, it works really, really well. And yeah, the finger strap is perfect. Now let's talk about the features and the performance of the GR3. When you whip the camera out of your pocket on the street, the startup time when you press the on-off switch is pretty minimal. So within a second or two, you can get snapping away if you see something cool on the street that you don't want to miss. The battery performance of the GR3 is good, but I wouldn't say it's great. There's a reason for that. The batteries are absolutely tiny. I mean, that's one there. It is tiny. It is so much smaller than, say, the Fujifilm X100V battery or the Fujifilm X-T5 battery or the Olympus OM1 battery. This really is tiny. And so carrying another one or 2 of these in your pocket or in your backpack is not a problem at all. The camera has a single SD card slot, so I suggest a 128GB or bigger card if you want to capture both JPEGs and RAW files. The shake reduction in the camera makes it super versatile, so you can certainly capture images in low light environments, or if you're out in the streets around dusk and you want to take an image of, say, cars going by or people walking by, you can take an image at a ½ a second shutter speed and everything will be nice and sharp except for that blur of the movement. So it really is a great versatile camera in that way. Autofocus is fantastic in good lighting conditions. The only thing I'll say about the autofocus is that in really dark conditions, like almost pitch black conditions, obviously it struggles a bit. Now there is a green beam that comes out from the camera to try and assist focusing in those really poor lighting situations, and that does work really well. However, that green beam does kind of alert people to the fact that you are taking a photo, so maybe you'll like that, maybe you won't. Generally, the screen on the back of the camera works really well for the composition of images. I was a bit sort of on the fence about whether I would enjoy this camera or not because there's no viewfinder, but I absolutely love it, I must say. Now here in Australia, quite often it is super bright and super sunny, and yeah, it can be a little bit difficult at times to see exactly what you're taking when you're looking at that screen. However, there are some settings in the camera for you to change the brightness settings of the LCD screen so you can sort of see better in those super bright conditions. And what I love about the screen in combination with the size of the camera is that it looks kind of, I guess, like a phone from a distance, and you're looking at the back of a screen like a phone. And so people don't really take you that seriously, I don't think. They don't really, if you're not putting a big camera up to your eye, they probably think, oh, they're just taking a phone photo. And so, yeah, it makes you a little bit more like ninja-like, a bit more stealthy in your shooting, which I absolutely love. The auto exposure of the camera is generally pretty good. I do err on the side of caution with some of my images. I will maybe dial it down in the exposure compensation to, -½ a stop or minus a full stop of exposure comp when there's a lot of contrast in the scene. And generally that works very well. You can, of course, bring up the histogram when you're shooting and refer to that. I'm not really a histogram kind of shooter, so I just go by look alone. Not having a flash on the camera suits me fine. Some of my film point and shoots are really annoying. You can't turn the flash off on many of them, and the flash seems to go off when you least want it to, which can be embarrassing or annoying. You might waste a frame of film. With the GR3, there is no risk of that because there is no flash at all. And for the most part, I haven't really missed a flash. I think the only time I really missed a flash is when I might be in a restaurant or a bar with my family and I want to take a nice photo of them. And of course I can take that with ambient light, but it might be a bit grainy or whatever. And so occasionally I have missed a flash, but generally I don't miss it at all. Now, of course, the GR3 does have a hot shoe. So if you have a flash like the Godox Lux Junior, you can put that on top. And there's also other Ricoh compatible flashes as well. Connectivity is good with built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and transferring images to your smartphone is a breeze and can be done in around 30 seconds. There's a good range of customization features with the Ricoh GR3. Take the mode dial here at the top. There are 3 customizable slots there on the dial. There's U1, U2 and U3. Now if you're wandering around where the streets have no name and you still haven't found what you're looking for, then you definitely need to customize the U2 slot. Sorry, dad joke. I haven't actually programmed any of those slots on the dial because I just use aperture priority. That's how I roll. You also have the ability in the camera to customize the image control, the picture control specification. So of course you have all of these inbuilt Ricoh JPEG film simulations, which I absolutely love. And there's also a couple of custom slots on the end there, so you can put your own recipes in the camera, which is pretty cool. And there's whole websites and apps out there that give you recipes for the Ricoh cameras that you can play around with. I must say, through Fujifilm, I'm kind of over all of the custom recipe things. I found that sort of took away from photography. I was worrying about recipes too much and dialing them in and comparing them. And yeah, I kind of got sick of that with the X100V. So at the moment, I'm really content to roll with Ricoh's inbuilt image control JPEG simulation. So the image control settings, which are basically JPEG simulations, are standard, vivid, monotone, soft monotone, hard monotone, high contrast, black and white, negative film, positive film, bleach bypass, retro, HDR tone, cross processing, and of course those custom 1 and 2 settings where you can input your own. So although you don't have that famous roll call of Fujifilm's films like Velvia and Acros and stuff like that, you know, the Ricoh ones are really quite good. I've only used probably a handful of them. My favorite one by far for daylight shooting is positive film. It is absolutely outstanding. I love it. I also do really like the negative film one, especially for portraits. They're a bit more neutral and a bit more natural looking. The only thing about the negative film one I will say is that it makes reds look orange. So you can go in and play around with that if you don't like it. Just recently I've gone into the negative film setting on my GR3 and I've bumped up the saturation by 1 level. So I'm going to play around with that and see if I like the look any better. The camera has a built-in ND filter. I must say I haven't used it, but there you go. It is there if you need it. It also has a really good macro mode, and you can sort of get into that just by a single touch on the back of the camera there. And yeah, you can focus really closely with that macro mode. So I really do like that. The final thing I'll touch on is Ricoh's famous snap focus mode. Now this is something that was legendary in their film cameras. It's the ability to preset the focus at a determined interval. I guess a bit like manual focusing, I guess, at a certain distance. So what you do is you dial into the camera what the snap focus distance is, and then you can walk around on the streets, you know, trying to measure yourself between the people or things you're trying to photograph and take pictures, knowing that, you know, hopefully it's going to be in that snap focus area. Now I used this mode quite a lot when I first got to Japan. We were walking around Sapporo. Quite often it was at night time, and yeah, it was quite dark, but I was using the snap focus mode. I was kind of walking when I was doing it, so I wasn't completely still. I had some mixed results with it. I think it was that combination of the light not being super bright, but also me walking. So some images look really good and some not so good. It's a setting that I definitely want to try out again because a lot of people absolutely love the snap focus mode. In the end, what I actually did for the rest of the trip was I just went back into normal autofocus mode, and I really liked that. But I am keen to give the snap focus mode another go. Now talking about sort of street photography, you can actually turn most of the noises that the camera makes off. It's not completely silent, but it's pretty stealthy, I must say. And the final topic for my review is image quality. I think the image quality of this camera is outstanding. It's got a fantastic lens, it's sharp, the color rendition, the contrast, beautiful pictures. I absolutely love it. The GR3 really suits my style of photography. If I had to pick one genre that I'm into, I would say travel, because I love traveling, but also because travel photography is a real mix of all other sorts of photography. You know, you've got cityscape, you've got landscape, you've got food, you've got portraits, you've got street, all of them intertwined in the destination that you're visiting. And I like to take color photos. I like photos with good saturation and good contrast. And yeah, this camera suits me down to the ground. I'm able to easily transfer images from the camera to my phone when I'm in a cafe having a coffee or something like that. And I can easily share them with friends or on social media. So for me, this is the perfect everyday carry for street and travel photographers. Now I'll talk you through 25 of my favorite images from my Japan trip in March and April 2023. So the first one here is at Kyoto railway station. We got back from Nara, visiting out the deer out in Nara. And yeah, when we got back, there was just these two red trains sort of mirroring each other here on the platform. And I absolutely love this. I think it looks fantastic. And I actually took a couple of film photos here, which I love. The family wanted to get back to the hotel and chill, and Dad's taking the photos on the train station platform. But hey, you got to indulge me sometimes, right? Now that photo of the two trains was taken at ISO 5000, but I can tell you it looks fantastic. It looks really great. The next photo was also taken at a higher ISO 3200. This is on the streets of Sapporo. We were staying in an entertainment district, I think the euphemism is, of Sapporo, and walking around there's quite a few clubs where there were young ladies working, and I absolutely love this photo. There was this club here where these bunny girls were working, and they had all these bunny costumes on with the bunny tails and stuff. And yeah, I really love just the colors of that sort of green sort of leather stuff of the bar there, and the lady's legs and her bunny outfit. I think it looks absolutely fantastic, and the reflections at the top look fantastic. The next shot is also in Sapporo. We went to this restaurant which had a really good review. Unfortunately, there was like an hour wait for a table, but the person said to us, hey, you can stand up at the bar if you want and eat food. And we were like, yep, we'll do that. So we stood at the bar with another guy, Japanese guy, and when we were standing at the bar sort of ordering beer and food and stuff, this guy here actually worked at the place, and he would sort of talk into the microphone and make the orders. And so I managed to take a photo of him here rather discreetly. I'm not sure if he saw me or not. I was only probably less than 6 feet away. So this is a train that was operating in Osaka City, and you can probably tell here from the train it was promoting the beautiful city of Nara. Nara is famous for its deer, and look at this train carriage. You've got beautiful sort of cherry blossoms and sort of golden leaves. You've got these two beautiful deer painted on the outside of the carriage. Then you've got these two people in the window there, which look absolutely fantastic. And just to the left of the people in the window, you can see another deer behind them there, painted in. It's super cute, and I really love this picture. And we went to Kobe. We went to this place to see some sloths and a capybara for my son because he loves all that stuff. And so we went out to this zoo, and on the way back we were walking, trying to find some cherry blossoms for me to take some photos. And we just come across this shop front. It was closed, but I really love the sort of the outlines of the trees here, and the colors and the contrast and the light here. So I took this photo, absolutely love it. The next image, we're in Tokyo, and my son and I rented this swan boat. We actually went to a capybara cafe. So lots of capybara entwined stories here. And after that, because I went to the capybara cafe with my son, I said, you have to come with me and go onto one of the swans on the lake. It would have been very easy to drop your camera or your phone into the lake. Luckily, I did neither, and I was able to take this photo with the GR3 of these people having fun in their swan boat. How wonderful. If you're enjoying this video, please help me out. Give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below. And if you're new here, I would love it if you subscribe to my channel, and if you subscribe to my regular photography newsletter, mattlovescameras.substack.com. There's a link in the description of the video. If you love my content and you'd like to support the channel, there's a few ways you can do that. You could take out a paid membership of my Substack, and you'll be able to download all of these amazing PDF digital versions of my zines. There's also ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/MattLovesCameras. You can buy me a coffee, and you can also send me a super thanks here on YouTube. I really would appreciate it. Thank you. The next image is from Koyasan, a pretty little town in the mountains where there are over, I think, 50 Buddhist monasteries. There's probably even more than that. But there are so many Buddhist monasteries up there where you can stay the night and soak up the atmosphere of this Buddhist town in the mountains. So I took this picture here of one of the buildings in Koyasan. It just looks amazing. Looks like it's out of a movie set, this town. And yeah, this is at ISO 12,800. But this image looks fantastic. The lights and the blue of the sky there. It was almost dark, but you just get a bit of that blue sky there. It was fantastic. The next image is of some kind of blossoms. Let's call them cherry blossoms. I really don't know what they are, but I love this. Look at the beautiful pinks. There's the dark pinks and the light pinks and the pale blue sky in the background. Absolutely love that. Fantastic colors there with the positive film simulation. Next image is in Nara and the deer is licking its lips. And yeah, the small GR3 did not intimidate the deer. The deer was absolutely loving me being in his face. I think we actually had like a little deer biscuit you can feed the deer, so I think that's actually the only reason they came over. But yeah, the deer are super cute, and you've got the cherry blossoms in the background there as well. The next image is in Kyoto where we went on the tram, and yeah, I got up close to the carriage of the driver of the tram, and here he is making an announcement. And look at his outfit, he's got the nice hat on and the white gloves. Very super cool. Really, really love train drivers and train people in Japan. You know, there's a lot of sort of etiquette around it. It's very cool, love it. The next image is of Kinkakuji, which is the Golden Temple in Kyoto. Really love this photo. Look at those beautiful colors on the positive film simulation. You've got the golds of the temple and the blues and the greens. Fantastic. Now it looks like from first glance there's no people in this picture. If you look in the background, you can kind of see a massive stream of people walking around the temple. So that's the funny thing about some of these Zen Buddhist temples is you don't feel very Zen because there's so many tourists there. Here we are back in Hokkaido in the beautiful onsen or hot springs town of Jizankai. And we got to this is probably the most beautiful, luxurious hotel we stayed at the whole trip. In fact, the hotels at the start of the trip were really lovely and amazing and fantastic in Hokkaido. And as we got to the end of the trip, they got worse and worse, the hotels. But here we are, and yeah, we're in Hokkaido. There's still snow on the ground. We're staying in this beautiful spa hotel. And I took this picture with the GR3 out the window looking towards outside. And you know, the way that that's handled that scene there, we've got the outside and the inside and everything looks fantastic. Yeah, really love the exposure control of this camera. This just looks fantastic. In Sapporo one night out, I took this image. I really love all of the signs on the right hand side of this shop and the gentleman walking by looking at them. Full of color, really love that. Now we're up in the mountains at Sapporo TNA, just outside the city where all of the snow is. And we went up there for the day and we played in the snow and built snowmen and snow women and snow kids and snow dogs. We had a great time, had a snowball fight. It was very novel for us because we don't get snow here in Queensland. So the whole family loved it. And when we were up there, they actually have the old, the gondola, is that what you call it? The cable car for the 1972 Sapporo Olympics. Now this isn't actually a working cable car anymore. It's just sitting there as a kind of, you know, a cool thing that's still there, like an antique. But I really love the colors and the reds and the blues here in that picture. On the way back to the city, I actually took this picture here on the train. And you know, taking a picture of a train seat isn't generally something I do, but I just love the colors here. You've got the bluey sort of green and you've got the orange and you've got the lighter orange of the rail here. Love that. I took that on film as well, and one of those images actually made it to my 35mm Japan film photography zine. This is the digital version of that image, and I really do like it. I must say though, I prefer the film image in this particular case. On our way from Koyasan back down to Osaka, we stopped at all these little stations along the way, and it was really super cool because this is like a country line of the railway and a lot of local people would get on, which is really fantastic. So we stopped at this little train station here on the way to Osaka, and yeah, there's this beautiful sort of patchwork of colors around the station walls there, and there was a lady or two in that window making hot tea and snacks for people. I thought that was wonderful, and I was just able to get my camera out quickly out of my pocket. As the doors opened, I took that picture and put my camera away. So that's what I love about this camera. It's so quick and easy to use. The next image is of my beautiful daughter. We went to this cafe in Osaka called the Bear Paw Cafe, and you order a coffee or an ice cream or a drink, and yeah, it's delivered to you via a hole in the wall where a bear paw comes out and gives it to you. Very, very super cool place. And here's my daughter smiling. She looks great. And yeah, I think that was taken with the negative film sim. And yeah, color tones look great. Really, really lovely balance to that photo. The next two images were taken out of the Kobe Metro. Now I mentioned before how we went out to see the zoo at Kobe, so we actually had to get from the sort of mainland of Japan, I suppose you could say. You had to go across this metro, across these little islands out to the zoo in the port. And yeah, when we were going on this train line, I was looking out the window and I just saw these two scenes I thought looked fantastic. So here's the first one here of this little boat here and some shipping containers in the sea. Love that. And the next one, we kind of went over this like motorway or something it was, and I took that out the window as well. So, you know, we're still moving in a train, but I was just able to take these sharp pictures just out the train window. And there was a glass in my way as well. So yeah, really, really love the camera. Next up, I have 3 pictures of people at work in Japan. So this one's in Osaka, and this gentleman here, he's refilling the tickets of the ticket vending machine. How cool. So there you go. You see this quite often in Japan. I don't think I've seen this in Australia, but you see people, mostly men, repairing machines and doing maintenance of machines all the time, everywhere. I don't know, I just don't seem to see it in Australia, but I saw so many people in machines doing stuff, fixing them, refilling them, all that kind of stuff. This lady here works at Kurizu, which is a absolutely fantastic cafe near Kyoto Station. Probably, I would say, the best coffee I've ever had. The best. They do a flat white there, like an Aussie flat white. Beautiful, you know, a couple of shots of espresso and sort of steamed foamed milk. Absolutely beautiful coffee. I would say, yeah, it was probably the best coffee I've ever had. I actually ordered one, started drinking it, and got back in the queue and ordered another to take away with me. The next morning I went back and ordered 3, 1 for my wife and 2 for me. So yeah, fantastic place. And she was only this lady working here the first day I went, and she was doing such a good job because the line was out the door and around the street. This next one is in Tokyo in the Nihonbashi district. We stayed near a service station, a gas station, and yeah, there's this guy working at the gas station, and I was walking past one day and he had this like helmet on, and he's got this like strap across his back and his chest, and he has these 2 cans, like jerry cans I suppose they are, of fuel, petrol, who knows what they are. And yeah, I just took this picture from behind him. It just feels like to me it's kind of almost out of some futuristic, you know, science fiction movie, this guy with the helmet on and the cans. Really love that. I think it's really fantastic. Also in the Nihonbashi district, I took this photo of these 2 ladies having a chat in the street. I was probably about, I don't know, about 20 feet away from them, 6 meters. But I got my cameras out. They didn't seem to look at me or care about me at all. And I discreetly took a couple of pictures. I think they look absolutely fantastic. You see a lot of older people in Japan that are very active. You know, that's another thing that I noticed. You know, there's a lot of people, older people, cleaning parks, riding bikes, doing their shopping. You know, these people, I'm not sure how old these ladies are, but I'd suggest they're probably in their 80s plus. You know, these are not spring chickens by any means. And finally, here is a family picture. Well, as the family minus me. This is in Kyoto Station. We are about to get on the Shinkansen to Tokyo. And yeah, everyone is ready for the trip. And yeah, my wife is actually carrying some bento boxes there. We got our breakfast in these beautiful little packaged boxes, you know, chicken and rice or beef and rice. And looking at the suitcases, it's just triggered a memory that it was raining, because if you look at the top of our suitcases, they're all wet. And I think we got rained on as we arrived at the station. I really love that. It brings back lots of happy memories. So there you go, there is my review of the Ricoh GR3 Diary Edition camera. I bought it in March this year. I've absolutely loved using it over the course of 2023. I've taken some fantastic images with it. Now you might say, well, that's a bit big-headed, but of course I'm in Japan. You know, Japan is so photogenic. It's very hard to take bad pictures in Japan. So I've absolutely loved the images I've taken with it. Some of my favorites in many years, actually. So if you'd like to see more videos of Japan with the GR3, please leave a comment below and tell me.